direct, live and direct. You're watching Fam TV.
You're watching Fam TV.
I'm Trayvon. I'm Akiva. And you're watching Fam TV.
Hey, it's Maya. Hey, it's Jade. And you're watching Fam TV.
Yo, Fam TV on your head top, bruh.
Hi, my name is Zainab, and you're watching Fam TV.
You're now watching Fam TV. Fam!
Hey guys, it's Electra, 2A's_Breezy on Instagram, and this is Fam TV.
Fam TV, baby.
Also, I would love to be able to see these organizations share things like best practices. You know, you guys have a lot of youth. How'd you get those youth? Let's talk with our people over here. Collaborate means we're connecting on all levels. All right, so without further ado, I'm going to bring up Urban Res to pull it all together.
All right, pull it all together. Good afternoon again, everyone.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm multitasking today. I've got the camera position and also speaker position. So my name is Roderick Brereton. This is Sean Ideben from Farley Fives, and we're here on behalf of Urban Resolutions. So Urban Resolutions is an agency that started in 2004. And initially what we were doing it was anger management and conflict resolution within the urban context, and also the res, which stands for reservations, because we have indigenous partners also that we work with. So recognizing that there was deficits in community where anger management and conflict resolution were involved, and the results of not having those skills fine-tuned, often which led to incarceration or issues with the system, we endeavored to fill that void. So we started it in that regard, again in 2004, but as time expanded, we noticed that it involved a little bit more than just learning the principles and the skills. So we took on something called social transformational change. So not just, again, learning the skill sets, but also learning how to change. And in a sense of how people change and go about that change, we endeavored that. So we'll talk about some of the principles that we do for people to help them change, which are called the 7 C's. And I'll let Farley talk about that.
Sure. So one of the things we recognize, for the record, Rod and I are both have our bases from the entertainment industry. You know, Rod's a Juno Award-winning producer, former rapper, etc.
Former rapper.
Emphasis on the former rapper. I myself have been in the entertainment industry, for over 30 years now in terms of artist management, launching Flow 93.5, Canadian Idol, Maestro, all those wonderful things. But the one thing that I'm really grateful about that my career has offered is the opportunity to work with youth. And in recognizing what Rod and I coming together and recognizing those gaps that he referred to was about how to engage young people. And we try to take it to the next level as much as possible. So for instance, most young people learn through repetition, and that's regardless of culture. You learn your Mary had a little black lamb, whatever it is, right? You learn that, but you learn it through repetition. And at some point,
black sheep.
at some point, somebody decided that kids are too old to learn by repetition, right? But if you listen to the radio, everybody heard, I don't know if you heard Drake's new track, right? But you listen to it over and over. With one of our youth, I listened to it on my way here, and I remember the lyrics, some of them at least, right? So our point is, we very much work in terms of our principles. We make sure that we reinforce them on a consistent basis so the youth can adopt them and apply them. So we have something called the 7 C's, which consists of conscious choice, using the power of your voice, curiosity about your own potential, challenge yourself to look inside and do something different, the change process, as Rod mentioned, commitment, and communication. Right? So all of those are things that we repeat over and over in our sessions so the young people can apply them to getting performance out of their potential, which I mentioned earlier. On top of that, when we look at these kinds of initiatives, it's very important. We have something called, we call it the McDonald's principle, where we make sure that youth can interact with the information the same way they interact with every street corner of their neighborhood. There's a McDonald's. Right? And McDonald's is one of the most powerful brands in the world because of repetition, frequency, and location. Right? So if we're going to do the initiatives like Olori, or initiatives like our first major project of late, which is called Just Think First, we proliferate the market with information just like we're marketing Drake's new single. Same thing. There's no difference. right? So if we can market music and whatever else and sports, right? If I say, who knows who LeBron James is, everybody can put their hand up, right? But do we know the 7 C's? Do we know what Olori is? Do we know what Just Think First is? So we have to use those principles of marketing to create awareness. Awareness creates interest. Interest begats engagement. Okay, so that's what it's all about. So Sean here is one of the young men who's come through our program. And important to recognize as well, we take the kids on a journey. So we started, or the youth I should say, on a journey. So we started at a recreation center in this context with called Don Montgomery in Scarborough. The youth were there based on, we recruited them from Kennedy Station, we recruited them from the local high school, they came to the program. Now these same youth, after about 6 months, are now evolving into civic engagement. So they stay as part of a cohort that's perpetual. It changes in nature, but it's perpetual. Like we were talking, Joanne and I were talking on the way here about what the outcome is that we want to see. I want to be able to call them and say, yo, let's go to Bahamas next weekend with our kids. Right? That's what I don't consider Rod and I successful until we can make that statement to the youth we work with. You understand what I'm saying? So that's the key. So I'd like Sean to give you a sense of his perspective on the journey, right? Where he's come from and where he feels he is and where he's going as well.
So my name is Sean. How are y'all? I feel like the community program, it helps kids that are like stuck in bad positions, that are like going through trouble or looking for trouble, because like a lot of kids, you know, like they're not usually up to good. So with this community service, it's like they help us out, they give us like motivation to do better, and they give us a new perspective of where to put your mind at. And like I feel like with most of the kids, it helps us, you know, they're always there for us every week. So like it's better than looking for something bad to do, you know? It's better to like put yourself at something better, to put your life in the right like road, like not go down the wrong path. So I feel like it's good for me, you know? And I want to like keep moving on and do better and better. So,
So we just want to give you guys a little bit of awareness of, because a lot of what we do cross-pollinates into other initiatives and efforts. So currently, obviously with the Olori project, we know what the mandate is, that's been described. The Just Think First program is our anti-violence campaign. You've probably seen the billboards, whether it be in your buildings or the Gardner or subway stations, so on and so forth. So we use that principle and we transpose it to other initiatives. Currently we're embarking on that again, obviously addressing violence in the community, engaging the bystanders who watch the violence or watch the person who is considered the offender participate in a lifestyle that they know is better, and they're within earshot of that individual, and you know, different perspectives lead to different steps to say, let's end this. Just think first before you do what you do.
And then I just wanted to share, obviously, in terms of this context that we're in right now, for people to continue the conversation. Yes. Sometimes we have that attitude of like, you know, I'm finished talking or I've got nothing else to say. We've got to scrap that, because we always got to continue that conversation with, especially with the young folks who are susceptible or even vulnerable to some of the things that are happening in the streets, to continue to talk to them and to see the long-range outcomes as opposed to the short-term, you know, emotions, right? So we got to keep on talking, keep that conversation going, and be relentless on that. So encourage people just to think before they act, and in our case, just think first.
Absolutely. And just lastly, we have to be mindful that when we talk about civic engagement, engagement is the key word. Obviously, we understand what civics is, but we have a lot of principles. One of them is no vote, no quote. You cannot complain about what's happening in the system if you're not part of it, right? You have to get involved. That's why when Tony was talking about all of the things that are available through the city, the municipal level's quote unquote the lowest hanging fruit where you can start beyond your community, right? But sustainability has been a word that everyone's used, right? But we have to be sustainable in terms of our level of concern. We can't become jaded or what's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, let's use frustrated. Yeah, frustrated and stop. Sustainability is concern, it's effort, it's action. And then when the funding becomes available, and by the way, the funding should be both internally, revenue generational internally, as well as getting grants because we pay taxes. That's the only reason we should be going after grants. It's because we pay taxes. But we need to be self-sustained, right, or self-sustainable as business. Community is business. Business is community. Okay, the two things are absolutely interchangeable. So that's where we stand. So we're looking for, we love partnerships. I know it was mentioned already. FYI certainly partners very healthily, and many of the organizations, all the organizations in here do. But we have to partner because there's going to be power in numbers. Y'all know the rule, man. That is a lot less effective than that.
All right. And on that note, thank you very much.
Power in the building. Power in the building, everyone. Thank all the organizations for coming up and letting us know what they're doing in the community. One thing I hope that especially the youth understand our word called sustainability. Sustainability means having money when no one's funding you. That's what that means. When you don't have no money running over, say you got a little bank account and there's some money for snacks, we can still do the program. Right? That's what sustainability is. And everybody's expecting, or everybody's watching the organization that gets money and saying, oh, well, they got money. Right? But what happens when the money's done? Because they got a specific money to do a specific thing. When that's over, there's no more money. Okay, so like we gotta also foster this in our communities to donate, because everybody's kids comes to the center, but nobody's donating. But you're buying Jordans and you're buying $400 PS4 that taking up your time. Now you're not doing homework. Like it's a vicious circle, guys.